How you guys doing today? And this video is mostly going to be a very personal video. I'm mainly going to explain who I am to you guys because I feel like you guys don't really know me like that. I mean, if you're an OG fan for the past year or two, watching my TikToks and my, other YouTube type of YouTube videos that I post, then you probably know who I am by now. But this is for mainly for new people or people that have been watching me recently for like a couple months or 6 months, that doesn't really know who I am. So I hope you have your munchies and your popcorn's out, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? We're gonna get right into this video. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is my full name, and my full name is Kyle Aschwin Augustine. And if you want to know how old I am, I'm 22. My birthday is May 12, 2000. I was born in Long Island, New York, born and raised in Queens. You know what I'm saying? So, how can I start this? So I grew up in Queens, in Jamaica, Queens, if you know exactly where that is. I don't want to tell you the exact neighborhood that I live in, but it's definitely Jamaica, Queens. I grew up there, birth to 22 now, to when I moved out here in Brooklyn, and what can I say? I would say Spring Creek, Brooklyn, Spring Creek or East New York. I don't want to say exactly what area I'm in because it might be very easy to track me down and all that stuff, and I don't want to disrespect my own privacy. So that's just the exact neighborhood that I live in. Now, I grew up with 3 older siblings, 1 older brother, 2 older sisters, and they were all cool. And obviously, childhood was like very, very different than childhood that it is nowadays for kids nowadays. Back then we had no cell phones, we had no TV, we had no, no, we had TV, we just had no cell phones. I'm bugging. We had TV, we had, toys, regular shit to play with, and video games, just no like iPhones yet. Like, to be honest, I did not see an iPhone until I was 11 years old. I know there was an iPhone that came out a year before 2011, the really, really old one, but the first time that I actually saw a phone, I'm like, whoa, you can actually type and actually call on the same time. That's when I was 11 years old in the 6th grade. So, yeah, I grew up with 3 older siblings, and they're all, my eldest sister, she's 30. She's 32, and my other sister is 29. Yeah, 29. My brother is right now. He is 26. 26. Yeah. And both my parents stayed married for the entire years of raising me and my older siblings. They're still together now, which is pretty good, especially as for a black couple, you know what I'm saying? They're very old school. Maybe that's why they're still together now, but they're just very, very old school. But elementary school, went to elementary school in Long Island. That was in Northern Boulevard. I went to 3 different elementary schools. Oh no, 2 different elementary schools. 186, 205, and I graduated from 205 on to middle school, into the Glen Oaks campus. That's where I spent a lot of years on. I spent all 3 years of middle school and then an additional 2 years of high school before I transferred out. Because this would be a middle school, high school, and then another middle school, all in one big campus. If you live in New York, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's Glen Oaks campus. And middle school was very awkward. It was a super awkward phase. I was getting no girls. I had no idea. I was a super nerdy kid. And I remember one day in 9/11, 2012 is when everything changed. It was an after school program. We were all in the line of the race on the dash on the court behind the school. And it was my turn, everybody else got their chances to go. I'm getting all prepared and hyped up. I'm about to beat this kid, I'm in the run and dash race. And I was really ready. So we were ready, 1, 2, 3, go. And then next thing you know, after 2 steps, I find my leg up in the air, and next thing you know, I flip on I felt really bad, and then I injured my hip, and I had to be out of middle school for 2-3 months. And those were the roughest 2 or 3 months of my life because I was like 12 years old. I had to get surgery. I had to literally be in like a whole gas anesthesia phase, while getting surgery. Like they had to put mad needles and shit. That's when I kind of conquered my fear of needles, at that point, because I'm like, shoot, I have no choice but to have all these needles going in my arms and all that stuff, and without me screaming or crying. I mean, I just got used to it towards like the end, especially towards the end of the hospital. I spent 1 week in the hospital, which was like the longest week of my life. Definitely didn't smoke or drink at the time, obviously, because I was 12 years old. But that was like the very first like time where my mind was in a different. Like, how can I say, like, that's the first time I felt a high, because when the anesthesia gas, everything slowed down. I couldn't feel my body at all and stuff like that. And then went through surgery and then got out, recovered 2 or 3 months, came back to school. And then after that, I continued on to middle school. It was hard recovery to get back. And I had to go to physical therapy and the gym a lot of days just to work on my legs. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just the whole part of middle school is just recovering. And then the last 2 years of middle school, it was just okay. It was just we were acting like regular kids. We didn't smoke or drink at all. So it was just fun days of me visiting my friend's house, and we would just play basketball, do random shit. Sometimes go to the mall. I mean, regular teenager stuff. And until I went to high school, ninth grade. High school starts, and this is when my first time seeing like really fine girls, like girls that I never expected. I mean, the type of girls that I never expect back in middle school. Because middle school, it was just white girls. I mean, I like white girls, but it was just regular girls. But when I got to high school, man, there were BBWs, BBLs. I mean, I didn't know girls of different races can be BBWs. So back then, I was like, whoo, high school's like blessed, but. I had no experience with girls. I was ugly. I mean, I was ugly as fuck at the time, skinny as fuck. I mean, I was getting no girls. So it's like, I mean, I was getting along with everybody, and in high school, and I did get bullied a lot because I was like the autistic kid, but that doesn't sound hood, that doesn't really have that, aggression in him that I do now. But, yeah, back then, like, I got my phone stolen one time, in the locker, and I had to get that shit back. I got it back, surprisingly. And then another time, yeah, like, I mean, I would just get picked on a lot in high school, and I did have a bunch of crushes on girls. I did hit it off with a few, but it never went anywhere at all. I mean, if I stayed in that high school, I probably would still be a virgin today. If I'm just being honest, because I was getting it was just black girls and Hispanics. I like Hispanics and my sisters. I love them. But back then, I was an Aki. I didn't look like I was like intimidated like I do now. So none of them really wanted to fuck with me. I only got to make out with 2 girls in that school. One was a Guyanese girl, and the other one was a Hispanic girl. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, that was a bless. It was a bless at freshman year. I mean, I still didn't smoke or drink at the time, so it was like I was still like a nerdy kid, quote unquote. I mean, not a nerd. I mean, the only time where I was like a real nerd is when I was like 12, 13, 14. Playing video games all day long, and I would have like stacks and stacks of like Xbox games, PS4 games, until I got older and I started smoking and I stopped fucking with video games, and I was like, hey, let me just start selling half of this stuff so I can start maintaining my weed habit. And at the time I wasn't like 18, so I would always drag my friend that was a year older than me. This was when I was 17, he was 18, so I would like drag his ass out the house, and we would go to GameStop and freaking like sell as much games as I could, and I would use his ID, as a way to get the games, like as a way for me to sell the games. Those were the days. Like, I mean, I had no job, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how the fuck we did that, you know what I'm saying? As I look back, it's like, it blows my mind, but we did all of that, And that's kind of how I started smoking weed, is when I was 16. It was the very, very, very first time I had a blunt hole in my hand. I was 15 years old, and the guy stole my bike, but I was very upset. And I was sitting down on the bench with, like, 7 other black guys, smoking a joint. I didn't smoke at the time, so they randomly just passed it to me. I was sitting there waiting for them to get my bike back. I did get it back at the end of the day in a weirdly way, but that's a whole story for another day. But I had it burning in my hand, and it was like a very tiny roach left. So if it was a half a joint or half a spliff that they had back then, that would probably might be my first time getting high, but it wasn't. I just had it burning in my hand, and I tried to inhale it, but I didn't know how to inhale at the time, so I just put it in my mouth and then blew out whatever I had in there, and then I just gave it right back. And then I came home, and I remember when I got my bike, I smelled the weed so strong, and from coming from my hands. So, it wasn't very, very strong like as it is now, or how I smoke, but it was just very. I could smell. I was like, like, why does it smell like me? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's just how I got into the journey of starting smoking weed. Now, like, when I was like 15, 16, into sophomore year, it was a very horrible year, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was still at my original high school at QHST, that's what the high school name. And I was getting no girls, you know what I'm saying? So, like, everybody was getting cuffed up in a relationship, so I was getting depressed. I'm like, damn, bro, like, because it was kind of limited at this school. Because it was like, it's a big building with, like, very less students. Nowadays it's different. Nowadays they have, like, mad students at that school. But, like, back then it was like a big ass building, but, like, very less students. Like, I can't remember the exact capacity. It was like 1,200 students, which is, like, not that much people. Like, we literally all knew each other, like, left and right. You know what I'm saying? That's how small the attendance of the school is. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I was getting, like, no girls at that school, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember I had a crush on this one girl, this Caribbean girl. We would FaceTime each other all the time. And, like, one night, when I showed, like, a screenshot, I don't know what the fuck happened, but, like, I think I told one of the homies that I used to talk to at the time, I was like, yo, I'm FaceTiming this girl, and I showed him, like, a screenshot. I can't remember what screenshot I took, but, like, I showed him, like, a screenshot of us FaceTime, and his dumb ass showed it to her, and she never wanted to fuck with me after that day, you know what I'm saying? I dodged a big bullet, I don't really care, but, after that day, we just never really talked. Now, yeah, I never really had girlfriends experience. I never really had a girlfriend experience at all in my life, but I'm just explaining all of my experiences. But so after 10th grade, not after 10th grade, but there was one day in that school where it made my parents want to transfer me, but I OD'd on Xanax because I did Xanax. It was my very first time getting high. Was on Xanax. And one day I was walking down the hall, my friend, not like peer pressured, but he asked me first and I denied it, and he gave it to me for free. He was like, nah, I'll give it to you for free. I was like, oh, whatever. I was depressed at the time, and I wanted to try out what was being high like, because I was like, all right, I see everybody doing it. It's like high school, but it wasn't like, but I thought at the time that Xan was like just like a weed high, but nah, it's like different. It's like you're very drunk and aggressive and shit and dumb and you forget. And the time that I OD'd on Xanax, I grabbed it from the guy in the bathroom. I paid him $7 for it, and then did it. Almost OD'd in class. Like, I was literally drooling on the paper in class, and that made the teacher send me to her nurse office, and the nurse sent me to the hospital. So yeah, after that, that's when I transferred out of QHST, and then I went into Cardozo. This is when everything kind of changed for me, because mind you, I still didn't smoke weed. I still didn't drink. The only like drug I ever did was Xanax at that time, which was twice. And after like my overdose, I never smoked or did anything for like a good few months. Like, I would say a good 5 months. Like, I didn't try anything else. I literally kind of like try to be the sober kid, because I went to a new school. I don't know why I did that. Maybe because I was just too nervous of like what's gonna happen, but maybe because I transferred to a new high school and I was just trying to get used to it. But yeah, that's what kind of happened though. My first time smoked weed for reals was on the 4th of July of 2016, and my siblings asked me if I wanted to smoke with them. I didn't smoke at the time, and I was like, oh, let me try it out. Let's see how it is. And we smoked, and I got high, and then I got really, really, really stoned for the first time was a couple months after that. I smoked with my brother and his two other friends. We were hotboxing, and I couldn't feel my body. I couldn't feel like everything was like a frame. I felt like one of those inflated balloons that goes up and down. That's what I felt like. But besides that, my dating game. I mean, this is when my dating game kind of changed. Like, I was making out with girls that I had no business with making out with at Cardozo. Like, my first girl I made out with, it was like a white chick. She had a fat ass. I was like the girl I would make out with every single day throughout. Not every single day, but like whenever like we get the chance. Until like towards the end of the year, that's when we stopped fucking with each other. And I mean, no long story, but I would make out with like there was one point I would make out with like 2-3 different girls a day. I don't know. High school was like my prime time with girls, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would make out with white girls, black girls, you know what I'm saying? Guyanese, you know what I'm saying? Like, even an Asian chick. Like, I even lost my virginity, not in the school, but like me and this chick really hit it off, and I invited her to my parents' house, and I lost my virginity. We did it, and it was really fun. I made the most of it. It was first time. I mean, for some people, first time was super awkward, but for me, it was awesome. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I liked. I knew what my body, what my body liked. So we did it, and I lost my V card, and we did it a few times, and after that, I stopped gaining girls and all that shit. And fast forward to after high school, I only spent about 2 years in college, studying music. It got very, very hard. And once the pandemic started, that's when like I decided, let me just start dropping out and do something else. But my plan is, eventually go back, not back to college, but I want to go back to like a trade school or like, get a certificate. Maybe I might get a security license sometime at some point soon. Maybe not. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of like the basics of all about myself. If you have any more like questions or any like more like, I don't know, any more questions or comments, let me know in the comments. But other than that, that's all I kind of really want to say. I traveled by myself about 4 times to LA. I moved by myself back in May this year, and I'm just getting used to it now. But yeah, I mean, I didn't want to make this video very, very, very long, Like, I kind of wanted to make this 15 minutes, but, I just want to let y'all know everything about myself, at least the basics, But if y'all want to make a part 2, but I wanted to do it with questions that you guys actually want to know about me, let me know in the comments, or let me know on my Instagram. So I'll see y'all in the next video. All right, peace.